Lyon Share podcast with our host, Ed Lyon. Ed, what's going on, and who's our guest today?
Well, we're starting to run out of time to do tax planning for the end of the year, so I've got a lot of people reaching out to me who had a good year and are panicking about sharing it with Uncle Sam. My guest this week is Dallas Richardson. He is a wealth manager out of Coeur d'Alene, Idaho. He is in the same business as I am. He's got a really neat specialty focus that is different from most of the financial advisors you see. They're all chasing after doctors and lawyers and consultants and family offices and stuff like that. Well, Dallas focuses on working with blue-collar business owners just like him. Dallas, you started working for your dad when you were, what, 10? As a contractor, you were wearing a hard hat. You were what? Installing HVAC, breaking rocks, working an excavator before you could drive a car.
Exactly.
All right.
Cheap source of labor.
So it's the same kind of work that I've done and that most of the advisors that I've interviewed on the Lyon Share podcast have done. We sit down with clients. We help them accomplish their goals with a minimum of interference from tax. Dallas's practice is very tax forward. Dallas, why don't you tell us a little bit about your own background and about Skytower Council?
Sure. So my background, like you said, I grew up in a family-owned business where we were contractors, building very expensive vacation homes for the ultra-wealthy. Did very well until 2008, destroyed the family business, and then became a roughneck. That took me to every major oil patch in America. And then during that time, I started using my days off wisely, investing myself in apprenticing at some family offices. And then eventually, Ed and I came across each other's paths, and here we are. And that was back when you were with Financial Gravity. That was a while ago.
It was a while ago, but we've done some good work since then, and we've had some fun since then. I'm curious how you make the transition from roughneck to part-time family office. That's quite a jump.
Yeah, so some of the families that we did work for were extremely wealthy. We did work for a guy that invented dental orthodontic apparatus. We worked for a guy that he invented the clear respirators in every medical practice in the world. We worked for the guy that had 15 casinos. One of them was Monaco, the other Montenegro. He had one on Las Vegas Boulevard, and he sold that to Steve Wynn. And then we worked for movie stars, Nicolas Cage, Viggo Mortensen. I mean, we did work for Nike dudes, you name it. They had money, and during the oil field, I don't know why, but I still had their contact information. I don't know if it was because I was just some little hillbilly in Podunk, Idaho. They didn't have to worry about, but I had their phone numbers, and ironically, the wives were most helpful because I reached out to them and asked for help. Basically, my best friend got killed in an accident on a rig, and so he was a contractor before the rigs, just like I was, and I figured there was some sort of difference between what successful guys that work with their hands are doing and what the extremely successful do. And I wanted to know what it was. So I asked for help, and I got a lot of no's, but I got a few yeses, and 3 wives were kind enough to put me in their family offices, and I would work 2 weeks on, 2 weeks off, month on, month off on some hellhole drill rig, wherever it was in America. And then on my days off, I would fly or drive, be there for a couple hours, a couple of days, however long they would put up with me. And as long as you sign that NDA that's as thick as a shoebox, they're usually tolerant of your presence. And that's what I did for 5 years.
That's got to be a hell of a learning experience, making the transition from a guy who works with his hands to a guy who works with his brain. And that really is a big step up in the financial food chain for most of us. Even a surgeon who spends most of his time operating is using the brain to direct the hands. It's more than that kind of rough work. So how have you found your expertise to be received within the market that you're working in, within the blue collar business owner, somebody who's a roofer or an excavation contractor or somebody like that? Is it easier to open doors? Is it harder to open doors? Do you find that they're looking for somebody who has the Ivy League sheepskin? I'm fascinated, and this is part of the reason why I have so much fun working with you. I'm fascinated at how somebody from such a completely different background can be so successful in this market.
There's basically three groups. One of them, they'll meet with you once and then they'll scope you out for a year and ghost you. And a year and a half later, they come crawling back, begging and pleading for help. And
okay,
I gotta lie, there are times where I watch the phone ring for a few weeks before I call them back. Just, and I'll ask them, "Why'd you ghost me, man?" And the other two will. They're really slow to take on new things, but they do. And then I have another group of guys that they're so sick to death and tired of the headache and the stress, they don't want to deal with it anymore. They just want to shove it off on somebody and walk out the door. And that's kind of how we end up. I would say, unless I knew the world, I would never be able to get in front of them. I know their language. I know who they are. I did all of it. Everything from pumping out septic tanks, putting in septic tanks, putting on roofs, demolishing a house, building a house, dealing with clients, customers, and all the crap, and unending headaches. I know it all. And they also, I would say my biggest value to them is I'm not going to sugarcoat the cookie at all. They're surrounded by salesmen, and when you're a dude that comes in here and their outcome, their goals, their objectives determines everything we do. Once they hang on to you for a year after that, their trust is really thick,
Okay.
Right.
Sure. What's it like working with them versus working with the typical financial client, the typical white collar client who may have never changed a tire, never gotten in a bar fight, never ridden a motorcycle? Hey, I'm 61. I've never been in a bar fight either, but I think that ship has sailed.
Okay. What's the difference? They have this gut check, 3-degree to 4, like, you can't quantify it. You can't put a number or name on it. I mean, you can value it, but they just, once they know that you're their man, everything is easy. I mean, I'll walk out of their office on the way here after I drop off donuts or something, and they're all outside, and holding up their hands like, donuts, you're the man. You know what I'm talking about, and look, I mean, they're a blast to work with. Once you're in their trust, they're a blast to work with. The other group, they just second guess everything. They Google the hell out of it. They're hem and haw and drag their feet. They act like, I tell everybody, if you walk in here with a file cabinet hanging out your ass like you know everything, I am not your guy. I don't know if it was just the rigs or a life or what, but I have zero. I don't care how much you're worth. You're a pain in the ass. Go wear that shoe somewhere else, and they always say, oh, well, he makes good money. Does he really? I haven't met a single doctor or surgeon that has a higher net worth than any of my clients, and they're all working with their hands.
Interesting. And see, this is the thing. He knows how to niche.
Yeah.
He totally figured it out.
Yeah. It's a brilliant decision because it's an underserved niche. And I can tell you, working with accountants and advisors across the country, the immediate first instinct is, I'm going to go where I smell money. I'm going to go to the doctors. I'm going to go to the dentists. I'm going to go to the lawyers. And that seems like a common sense move. But Dallas, you alluded to this a couple minutes ago. These trade business owners can be worth a fortune. And it's a quiet fortune. They're not living in gaudy mansions. If they have a second home on a lake, the lake house is probably nicer than their primary residence. They're not driving Bentleys and Rolls Royces. They're driving pickup trucks. And yeah, maybe they're $80,000 or $100,000 pickup trucks, but they're pickup trucks. They speak plain English, and they don't feel a need to pretend to be smarter than they are, which I think a lot of the more conventional white collar clients do. You know, they want everybody to think they're the smartest person in the room, because they've been the smartest person in the room since they were in third grade, and they decided they were going to be a doctor when they grow up, and everybody in their class knew they were going to be a doctor, and there's no surprises. It's a very competitive world, a very status conscious world, and being smart is part of that status. Whereas with the blue collar business owners, a lot of them, they want to go hunting, they want to go fishing, they want to do gardening, or you know, go to their kids' soccer games. Their family is a bigger priority for them than showing off success. They didn't grow up with money. They don't have that chip on their shoulder. And so with my CPA group especially, once they start working in that niche, they tend to really like it. People are genuine, people are easier to work with, and they really value help. They really value the service as opposed to the doctor. You guys know the joke, right? What's the difference between God and a surgeon? God doesn't think he's a surgeon. With somebody who owns an excavation company, they're low key. They want to take care of their family. They want to have their free time. They want to have their independence. But they're not looking to impress anyone, and including they're not looking to impress me, Dallas. They're not looking to impress you.
No, I think I really stumbled into the niche more than anything, because when I decided to go down this road, I just decided I wanted to help people that reminded me of my father and my best friend Jason. They were just contractors, you know, and not gonna lie, it's not the easiest niche to really get your foot in the door, especially if you don't know their world. They'll smell you out in a second. And they're used to ending investment advisors showing up, oh, I got this thing or that, or I got this great product, when really they want a certain problem solved, and they don't want to hear about another, you know, they don't want to hear about something in the market. They want to go buy real estate. They want to just have cash. They want gold or whatever. And if you will happily pay you a stipend every year just to be their guy and stick with them, but they don't. Honestly, I don't ever push anything on anybody. I just kind of ask questions and figure out what is it they want to blow their money on and help them along the way. And
what is it they want to blow their money on? Okay.
I think they'll buy a lot of old cars. You'd be surprised. One client I have, you go out to his house. It's a good sized house, you know. The driveway, you know, like the typical joke with contractors. You can always tell here's a contractor because all their work, everything they're paid money on is finished and beautiful. Their house is halfway through remodeling and they just don't want to deal with it, you know? They go to his house, and in the backyard he's got a shop, and he's got, you know, Chevelles, Challengers, all of the toys. They go hunting and fishing. Hey, you want to go fishing? Like, I'm a little tight. I'll pay for your way. Okay, you know, and you know, they send you really nice bottles of whiskey, and if you go to like some sort of charity event and they're there, they'll make a big deal and shout your name to all these other people, and hey, you gotta come see my guy, you know, and all of that. It's pretty. Or like I'm a member of a foundation for a school, and we're raising, you know, donations for a new playground. I can go to them and like, how much do you need? Well, we're trying to get this from each guy. No, how much do you need? And we tell them, like, all right, and they just cut the check, you know? They're the best people. I don't have anything in common with the doctor.
So Dallas, what I'm intrigued about, and I think everyone that's listening to this broadcast, especially because a lot of financial planners and also tax attorneys listen to this podcast, how did you go out and find them? What did you do? Was it just referrals to build that clientele base? Did you network, or what did you do?
just grab yourself by the balls, go walk in their office, tell I am here to help you put tens of millions of dollars of unnecessary tax back in your pocket, bud. And yeah,
That's a
shot. Either one, they're brainwashed by the CPA, thinking they know everything and doing everything that can be done, or the other chance is they'll like, well, tell me more. And either way, they appreciate if you have the stones to just talk to them. I mean, most of the clients I have, I would show up to job sites at 5 a.m. with a box of Krispy Kreme donuts. And there are a few things in this universe that contractors love more than Krispy Kreme donuts. So I'd be sitting there with just all these boxes of donuts, and they're like, "Who you are?" Well, I'll wait for the boss, and my hard hat's usually more scratched up and banged up than theirs. I never wore clean clothes on the site. And that dude come in having no idea. He just walked into, the snare, and we would have a conversation. I take a lot of the heavy equipment salesmen out to lunch and take out, the guys that have all the supply chains out for lunch and everything, and tell them about what I do. And I joined all of the associations for everything to do with Kohler Industries. Not gonna lie, it's a long-term plan because they're used to salesmen being around. But they saw how my style was fixated on not wrapping things up into what I call low liquidity options to solve on tax. Like we don't ever push defined benefit plans or 401ks or anything like that. All of my guys, they all want liquidity. They want cash. Even if they don't touch it, they want it. So,
right. They're not really interested in paper assets. They're not interested in securities.
They like cash. They like gold. They like equipment. They like real estate. And so when they realize that your entire system was designed around giving them stupid amounts of liquidity and paying less tax, and then giving them unique ways of hanging on to their top guys, whether it's like a tiered profit sharing plan, not through any, insurance company, just a raw, built out from ground up profit sharing plan is custom. They're like, holy shit, this guy's really paved the way and he's here to help with all my problems. Why would I say no to this guy? And
right.
That we take over everything.
That makes sense. One thing that's popping into my mind, there are people who watch the podcast who understand how much fun it is to be helping clients with this stuff, how much fun financial services is. There are other people who think, taxes, that's boring. Finances, stocks, bonds, that's boring. Insurance, that's even more boring. And they don't understand that the fun in the business really doesn't have anything to do with the planning. It's with the relationships. Yeah. The relationships are a whole lot of fun. I've met great people. I've met celebrities and worked with them. I've met with people whose names you would never know, and you would never think that they're wealthy people, but it's the relationships with the people that make the job fun. I've learned so much and met so many fascinating people, and I know you have as well. So I don't do 5 a.m. I've never been a 5 a.m. guy. My clock doesn't even have 5 a.m. My clock just assumes if it's between midnight and 6, I don't need to know what time it is. But you're making friends. You're bringing donuts. You're spreading some good cheer. You're spreading a little joy. Everybody loves donuts. I mean, maybe vegans don't, but there are probably some pretty good vegans.
There's not a lot of vegans in this in these lines of industry. It's not, in my opinion.
Just not enough protein for that 5 a.m. start, huh?
No, bamboo steaks don't feed a fabricator,
No, but you're creating terrific relationships with terrific people. They're ambitious. They're just not the stereotypical ideal of a career-oriented, ambitious person. But if you're starting a business from scratch and looking to make a name for yourself, or if you bought or inherited a business from your father and you want to show your dad that you can do even better and be ambitious that way, that's a terrific way to do it. So sounds like for you, it's a lot of networking. You're opening conversations. You're not opening conversations talking about investment portfolios or insurance or anything like that. Tell me how an initial conversation goes. What are you going to bring up? What sort of reactions do you get from the people you're talking to?
The way I bring up the conversation is they usually say, "What are you doing here?" I'm like, "I'm here to help you keep more of your tax money. I'm here to cut your tax bill in half." I used to say something a lot more provocative, like, "I'm here to help you hose the IRS," but that brought some scrutiny, so I don't say that as much anymore. I say something more like, "Are you happy with how much you pay in tax? Do you love that tax bill?" "Hell no, I don't." I just smile like, "Well, would you be opposed if I showed you how to cut it in half or maybe even more?" And they're like, "Well, no, I wouldn't be opposed to that." Or they say, "Oh, my CPA is really good." I'm like, "Oh, really? Elon Musk isn't your guy?" And he's like, they look at me and go like, "Oh, is he the genius behind, Jared Burkle at Recession Family Office?" And they're like, "No." I'm like, "Oh, okay. I thought you said he was really good, but I guess he's not that good." And they all look at me like, "All right, smart ass, what do you want?" I'm like, "I'm here to help you keep your money."
Well, you introduce yourself like that, you're putting a target on your back. You're raising expectations pretty high, but it seems that you're able to do it. I know you are, because I know the sort of strategies that we implement together for your clients.
Yeah, I have a lot of fun. I think most people these days are absolutely terrified of getting a no, and they're like, yeah, they got thick skin, they got their walls up for good reason. You always see that trash of financial planning and tax planning they already have. It's terrible. It's like a crime.
Yeah. If somebody's going to be a no, I'm not afraid to hear it. I would rather hear it as soon in the process as possible, so that I'm not wasting any more time, and so that nobody thinks that I'm banging on them to sell them something. And in fact, there are some cases where I will say no before they will, if it just isn't a fit, or if I thought I smelled money and it turns out that the money's not there. I don't want to bang on someone. I don't want to make them feel bad for not having the money that I thought they would have. But if somebody comes to me, there's a difference. If somebody comes to you and says, "Here's this lottery ticket, and I won $100 million. I got the winning lottery ticket. Ed, can you help?" Yeah, I can help. And I'm probably going to look at a pretty comprehensive plan. I'm going to look at maybe a charitable lead trust, a pooled income fund. We're going to look at some sort of an equipment leasing play. We're going to look at various other things that we can offset that income. But if somebody comes to me and says, "Ed, I've got this lottery ticket. The drawing is tomorrow night, and if I win, I've got $100 million. I'm going to say, "Call me after you win." I'm going to be the one who says the no, because they're probably not going to win. And I have had lots of conversations with people who are close to money, close to getting income. And my advice is, come back when you're there, because we're not ready to do the planning yet. I'm not going to plan for your lottery if you haven't already won it.
So how do you identify that, if they have money or not, Ed?
That's the hard part. That's the hard part, and that's the fun conversation.
All you just got to do is ask them, "Hey, do you got an income tax bill of $100K or more?" "Yeah." "No." "Okay." And they're like, "Well, what if it gets to 100? Give me a call." They say, "Why? Well, nothing below that?" I'm like, "It just doesn't make sense, dude." Or they say, "I'm going to sell this. Is your capital gains tax $500,000 or more?" "No." "Give me a call when it is." And it's really hard in the beginning to have that attitude, but they're used to, I think most clients are used to yes men and salesmen saying whatever they can to keep daddy happy and to keep getting paid. Where if you're the one guy saying, "No," or if somebody doesn't like your fee, tell them no. Pay that tax bill. Like, you go to Ferrari, you're not walking in and telling them, "I don't want that. You got a discount," or no, you're buying the Ferrari, or you're not walking in.
Right. And if you have a Camry budget, that's fine. A Camry's a great car. Lots of people have Camrys and love them. Some people put a little different badge on it and they call it a Lexus and they spend $10,000 more. for that Camry. It's a terrific car. But if you have a Camry budget, don't go buying a Ferrari. Don't go into the Bentley dealership unless you're hoping somebody traded in their Camry for a Bentley. So Neil, you ask a really good question. And a lot of people who do what Dallas and I do spend a lot of time trying to answer that question. And it's not as easy to do as you think, because sometimes the Bentley is leased and sometimes the big house is rented. And you watch an influencer on Instagram who's partying with a bunch of supermodels in a pool, and you go on Airbnb and you say, oh, you can rent a mansion on the water in Miami for a couple $1,000.
And hire models.
Yeah, and you can hire models and you can create this impression of a lifestyle. A lot of people who don't have money are looking to display money. This gets into the whole psychology of money question. And for those of you who are watching this podcast, I cannot recommend Morgan Housel's book, The Psychology of Money, more strongly. It is a wonderful book on money and how to think about money. And one of the things that Housel says is, look, if you're driving down the street in a Ferrari, nobody is going to look at you and say, I want to be that guy. They don't want to be you. They want to drive the car you're driving, but they don't care about you. They care about the car. And a lot of people don't understand that. A lot of people are trying to live beyond their means. And a lot of people are trying to display a lifestyle that's beyond their means. And as Dallas, as you were saying, the guy who owns the excavation company, he's not driving a Bentley. He's driving a pickup truck. He's not living lavishly. And the question is, well, is this a $200,000 a year guy or is it a $2 million a year guy? Because it is a lot harder to tell the difference between the $200,000 a year contractor and the $2 million a year contractor than it is to tell the difference between the contractor and the doctor or the lawyer or the startup tech bro.
I would say in the blue collar world, there are some telltale signs that once you're in it for a while, you can pick it out. Usually the guy with the flashy wheels and a lift kit on his truck, that he's new to business. Why? Because when you have a toolbox in the back of your truck and you're tired at the end of the day, you don't want to lift anything, let alone lift it up high. You don't want a tall truck. You want to low to the ground. You don't want fancy wheels because it's always going to be dirty. It's going to get dinged up. You never buy a brand new truck if you're, there's like 3 stages. The first stage, they always get a small business loan, spend way too much on the vehicle. And then the second stage, they kind of learn from those mistakes. Mm-hmm. The second and third stage is where I like to work, where they're starting to grow, starting to gain money. They got guys they know they need to keep around. What are they doing? The same benefit package everybody else is doing for their guy. They're gonna drive 20 minutes farther for $4 an hour more. Or you're gonna give them something else. Or the guys that just learned from mistakes. They've gone through a recession or two, tightened up. And those guys usually are very open to new ideas, counsel, whether it's legal, financial, whatever. Mm-hmm. And on top of that, the young guys that are new to it and probably new to making money, they're YouTubing everything. They're just doing all this research and getting into these trusts and things that they really shouldn't be doing, and it's going to land them in jail. Like, we had a client that we fired because he was doing things like that. He was in that first stage. So there's certain signs, like how many projects they have around town. How big are they? Are they still? And then the third biggest sign, I would say, that they're really making it, they drive a truck that has no logos all over it. They don't want anybody to know who they are. They want to be the boss that comes and goes and almost parks behind the building, never in the front, doesn't want to be known. And he's usually got a pretty well-trained gatekeeper up front, but they usually can be pacified with a good box of chocolates and fancy orchid flowers and, a few choice words a woman always loves to hear.
This is the gatekeeper can be pacified with the orchids, not the contractor.
No. And then she'll eventually give you I'll give you 3 minutes, and you're like, all right, and you'll know real quick whether he's in or out.
Okay. That's fun. That's fun. You mentioned that the experience, the ones who have lived through a recession, that's terrifying for a whole lot of people. And you lived through a recession. That's what got you out of construction and into financial services. I'm curious how closely you're following the economy now, if you're concerned that things are a little frothy and that we're heading for a recession ourselves right now. And if you're not a fortune teller, feel free to say Magic 8 Ball's got as good a guess as I do.
No, I think it's my version of measuring economics is a blend of Warren Buffett and Ray Dalio. It's important to know that the time will come, and it's important to be prepared for whenever that time is coming. Because one thing we do with our clients, the best time to buy is when everything's on sale.
Right.
Or most people say, oh, I'll get out when it's at the top. Okay. Most people don't. Or they say whatever about the bottom. We really like a system and a strategy where you're sitting on enough liquidity where when the time comes, you can make moves and buy out competitors, buy out the choke points. John Rockefeller even said, I made my fortune buying out choke points. Just so happens those choke points went everywhere. And then if you buy out all the choke points to your business, whether it's your competitors or suppliers or the next step, and you have that liquidity, all of them are over leveraged. They're all using the same group of advisors, same limited focus on what can we sell and don't talk about anything else. Mm-hmm. Where your guy is strategically ready, not only will he survive it because he's got cash to lean on, because everybody else's lines of credit and everything else dry up. Mm-hmm. Our guys is ready, and they're also able to attract the top talent that are now out of a job. You don't always need to compete with Amazon. You just need to be ready for when Amazon flops.
Interesting.
You just gotta be patient. It won't happen again. And young people that haven't gone through a recession, they haven't lost everything, they just don't fucking get it, and it gets so old real quick. Trying to, I'm sorry. I'm just very
that's fine.
Yeah. The one thing I'm happy about is in marketing, there's no recession really. People need marketing every day, any day, anytime. And if you differentiate yourself, you don't have to worry about whatever the economy is. I don't try to watch the news. But my prediction is, yes, we are close, Ed. Mm-hmm. Especially the news that came out today. We're close. Closer than you can imagine.
Which specific news today?
I don't like talking political that much, but did you see it? Yeah.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah. I think I think we're about to see something happen soon, but I ultimately could be the mortgages too. I mean, a 50-year mortgage? Come on now.
50-year mortgage is ludicrous.
I mean, yeah.
And you can tell yourself, I'm going to take advantage of the lower payments while I'm young, but then I'm going to make some extra principal payments to accelerate the loan. That's not going to happen.
I have, for anybody that thinks a 50-year mortgage is a great idea, I have some swampland that's for sale right now. Give me a call. We'll cut a great deal. It'll be great.
And you'll get it on a 50-year mortgage. So
you'll get it. Well, a 50-year mortgage. No, I own it for economic forecasting. I listen to Ray Dalio, Warren. There's a guy on LinkedIn named Richard Dawkins, really good. And they all have these very unbiased, pretty ruthless views on things.
Right.
It's really important to me. Like it's just math and economics. It is what it is.
Well, it's hard to trust a guy at Merrill Lynch with their economic forecast when you know that Merrill Lynch is trying very hard to lure every company in the world to them, to borrow from them, to do their underwriting for them, to manage their retirement assets for them. They're hopelessly compromised. And there might be useful information of nuggets, but an analyst at Goldman Sachs is going to talk about how Goldman Sachs is going to come out ahead in whatever happens, and they're hopelessly biased.
Yeah, and there's another guy named Peter. Damn it, he was on Joe Rogan. He's got another really good. I'll get the name to you guys, but I honestly think between now and the next 3 years, there'll be a real shift. There's just too many things with the corporate debt coming full circle, with the economics around the world and also political. Because we didn't really make a lot of friends in the last, I don't know, this is America, last 50 years. So, and then with AI kind of dislodging things that have been in place for a long time, I think it's only a matter of time before a real transition happens. Mm-hmm. The thing is, though, you could put your head in the sand and pretend it's not going to happen, or you can be prepared for it. I mean, that's when fortune's made. If you look at Warren Buffett, 5 different times in his career, his net worth has exploded. And every time that's happened, it's because of a recession. He's
just had the advantage that at his age, he's been around for more recession. But certainly a 28-year-old or a 30-year-old isn't going to have the perspective of Warren Buffett. My understanding is that he made his first billion by the time he was 65 and made all the rest of his billions after 65. He's testament to the power of compound interest. His wealth has kept compounding. The average person, they get to 65, then they retire. And the compounding slow because they're taking money out rather than putting money in. Whereas Warren Buffett has been putting money in consistently. Ray Dalio might be a bigger spender than Warren Buffett, but he doesn't have a reputation as an extravagant guy, so he's going to keep compounding as well.
Yeah.
It'll be interesting to see. I'm particularly curious too with AI, simply because of how leveraged AI is, and companies starting to realize that AI isn't delivering the profitability yet that they expected. It's a little bit of quicksand underneath that foundation, and who knows what happens. ChatGPT 5.0 wasn't that much better than 4.0,
and now there's a 5.1. It just came out today. Breaking news.
Oh, okay, yeah. So, and Neil, you and I have talked before about how ChatGPT was leading the race, and then Google was ahead in the race, and
it just all depends because of overviews. Here's the big thing now. I might be wrong about ChatGPT dying. See, at least I'll say what I've said on the radio program podcast a couple months ago. The valuation of $1 trillion is going to make them compete with Amazon and all the different platforms. So that's what the valuation is when they go public, is $1 trillion for OpenAI. So
that's insane.
And they're going to run ads. And they have all our data, and they've just said now that they never forget any conversation if we delete the conversation, so they can target you on anything. This is all came out on a podcast, a marketing school podcast. Credit Neil Patel for that. Mm-hmm. But I was like, what? Because that's where Facebook ads were the best till you couldn't target certain things anymore.
Mm-hmm. Right.
All the data.
Yeah. And so you may be wondering why we're discussing this on a podcast about tax planning. And the answer is, this really is all relevant. It's not specifics of how I'm using AI in my tax business, or Dallas, how you're using AI in your wealth management business, or Neil, how you're using AI in your marketing and podcasting business. But this affects the business climate, and shifts in the business climate are going to affect taxes. So Warren Buffett, Dallas, you mentioned, he said you said his wealth has exploded 5 times in his life after recessions. Well, he's buying when people can't afford to hold. When markets go down and people are forced to sell something to avoid laying off employees, or to buy groceries, or to make payments on those really old-fashioned 30-year-old mortgages, when what they really want is a shiny new 50-year mortgage. And that has tax consequences. If you're selling something in a panic at a gain, you're still going to owe tax on it. You're still going to owe tax on the profit. And if markets are plunging and we're in a recession and business is contracting, tax planning is even more important because taxes dig even deeper. If your income is going down, yeah, you can save 15% or more on car insurance by switching to Geico. But what's that really going to do for you in the long run? You got to be looking at your big bills, and business owners might think, oh, my income is going down, so I'm going to be paying less tax, so I don't need to worry as much about tax planning. But no, you need to worry more about tax planning if you can avoid paying taxes because the rest of your income has gone down.
Yeah, do you want to pay out of your bottom line or do you want to pay out of what you owe?
Totally.
Yeah.
Well, Dallas, so far, I'm so impressed by you showing this is how you go out and build a company. You go right and talk to them.
Yeah.
Stop this whole, and I'm a social media marketing guy, but connections are where I grow my business by people coming on my show. That's how I grow my clients. And it's by meeting them face to face saying, hey, would you like to work with me? And it's not, okay, let's go send a bunch of messages. Let's post things instead of go out and talk to the person.
Right. No, and that's exactly why I'm here, Neil. That's exactly why this podcast exists. I would never have seen you on social media. I would not have been looking for you until your other client, Tom Quigley, my good friend, said, hey, talk to Neil about a podcast. And Alan Porter, another friend who works with you. That's how the world works. So, dirty little secret time. My most valuable asset in my business is not my knowledge of taxes. It's the fact that I've been doing this for 20 years and I've built a network of hundreds of CPAs, attorneys, and financial advisors across the country to work with. That network is far more valuable than any intellectual knowledge I'm going to have. Dallas, your most valuable asset is your network of people in your niche and your history in that niche. It's your ability to connect to somebody because you know what you're doing. A couple of months ago, I had dinner at a friend's house. A bunch of guys were over there. He had an excavator, a little excavator with the arm and the shovel in his yard. He's worked with the excavator, but there was a basketball and there was a bucket, and we decided to play excavator basketball. And the goal was you're going to take the scoop and you're going to scoop the ball off the ground and you're going to move it over the bucket and you're going to drop the basketball in the bucket. And unfortunately, somebody popped the basketball before anyone had the chance to actually drop it in the bucket. But it's that sort of a connection that grows a business, whether it's a marketing business, a financial services business, or a tax business.
Yep.
Dallas, this has been a great conversation. I'd love to have you back on the podcast again.
Sure.
Tell us a little bit about your firm and how people can get in touch with you.
So our firm is called Skytower Council. We have a team that you're part of where we have 57 tax, legal, and financial specialists. We're basically a micro-family office that solves the problems for people that have a net worth of 10 to 100 million. And you have to be a blue-collar business owner or we won't even have the conversation. We specialize in reducing unnecessary capital gains of state income tax. And our goal is basically to have 1,000 tax augmented companies by 2030. So, because it's our hope that if we have them tax proof, recession proof as much as we can, that's a lot of families that will make it through the next recession. And maybe we will have built the team that would have saved my father's business if he would have listened. Whether or not, I don't know. But even to this day, you still can't tell your father shit.
No, you can't. So where do we find you, Dallas?
Skytowercouncil.com or on LinkedIn. Just look me up, Dallas Richardson, and I'll pop up.
All right. We appreciate it, Dallas. This is a pleasure. And you have a way with people, and it's interesting. Uh-huh. It's intriguing. It's something different. I know that's why Ed brings on these amazing guests, because you never know. But they all learned from Ed, and that's where they are able to go and do those things. And Definitely, Dallas. We appreciate it, and we look forward to having you back.
Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Okay, guys.
Thanks.
All
Nick.
right.
Bye-bye.
All right. Make sure you like and subscribe to this podcast and tell people about it, because it's a gold mine for people that are shocked that they can really decrease their tax bill and obtain wealth. Appreciate it, guys. That was the special simulcast, the Neil Haley Show on the Lion Share podcast, guys.